All right. I need the new link. Share. All right. So Aave 3. This is going to be much harder. Let's see if we can just answer the efficiency mode part. So last time, basically, just reviewing efficiency mode, right? It's like in the white paper they talk about like, okay, you can put all stablecoins into one group and use that as like just borrowing in and like depositing within that stablecoin group. The idea being if they all have the same risk level, like if they all theoretically don't break peg, then I have 100 USDC, I should be able to borrow $100 of DAI. And like have LTV at like 99.5%, I think is, or like 98% is basically what they have. So it's like as long as USDC doesn't break below like 98 cents on the dollar, then my position won't be affected, right? And that's something you can only really do with like basically tokens of the same type, right? So you can see like they made an E mode for stablecoins on like the dollar. They made an E mode for like ETH, wrapped ETH assets. So you have ETH, you have staked ETH from Lido, you have AlETH, which I think is Alchemy, Alchemix. Whoa, not Alchemy. Alchemy is a data service provider. Alchemix, ETH, and then same thing for Bitcoin. You have WBTC, RenBTC, and they would all kind of be in the same E modes. Again, I'm guessing that does 95% actually make sense here? Because we remember when we were looking at staked ETH versus ETH a few weeks ago. Didn't we actually see it break past 5%? I think we did. Where was this? Yeah, DPEG exploration. We saw. Oh no, it didn't. Okay, it went 2% as like its maximum, and it's been trending at 2% DPEG still for the last like few weeks or so. So based on that, 95% actually does seem fine. I remember someone saying, was it staked ETH is supposed to be like a 7% discount, but the liquidity gives it a premium. So 95% makes sense here. Alchemix, I actually don't know what its swap rate is, but it's probably even closer to ETH than staked ETH is. So 95% makes sense here. And then Bitcoin, I actually have no idea how closely these trend, but I'm sure they've done the research, and 95% is more than enough that they shouldn't stray by much. I actually wonder if these use Oracle prices because they're third party. So anyways, yeah, so I think we should start by finding how they define E-mode categories on chain, right? So they store it in. Okay, so they have this E-mode category enumerator. I don't know what data type this is yet, but you can have a maximum of 255. And it's probably listed. So if we have, let's see, typical Aave structure, you have a lending pool, and then you have A tokens. Probably on the A token is defined what E mode it is, or in the lending pool they track like a mapping of like address to E mode, like A token address to E mode. It's one of those two. I would imagine. But we're gonna have to find out. If user supplied liquidity to protocol, then the user E mode category is set to 0 by default. Oh, all right. Maybe I'm wrong. Can a user only be in one E mode category? No, wait, right? That doesn't make sense. Yeah, because if I deposited both like USDT and ETH, then I should be able to trade in 2 E modes. Right. So I don't know what this means. But alright. The good thing is, oh, there's a link. Okay, that doesn't help. If I'm reading this correctly, I should be able to find this E mode category on deposit, which means I should be able to find it on the lending pool contract. Should be. I think last time we were looking at deposits, alright, so on Polygon. Remember, this doesn't exist on mainnet. I need to go to Polygon scan. And this is a proxy. The implementation is pool. Okay, yeah, so this is what we're looking for. We're taking it to dot and death, and hopefully I can find E mode in here. E mode. Okay, there's something in here. All right, supply logic. So, all right, some fun Solidity stuff here. My screen is still being shared, right? Yeah, okay. And the live stream is still fine. In Solidity, if you see there's like some like variable where you're then, oops, it looks like you're calling a function off of it. This means it's kind of like an interface contract. So it's like you're calling the pool, and then the pool is calling this supply logic contract and doing like execute withdraw or whatnot. And anytime I start to see many contracts being called, then I take things out of def and I go to VS Code instead. So let me open a folder for this. Here, let's just have the GitHub abstractions opened, and let's just call this, what was it called? Pool? Aave? Anything? And I'm just going to put this in here and save it. And I have this extension called, I think it's Solidity Visual Debugger Developer. So you're going to have to install this extension if you don't have it. But what I can do is do graph this, and oh god, this is a mess. I can see. This is pretty telling. All of the functions, so like everything on this left side is like top level functions being called, like repay, borrow, like deposit, supply, all of this. I can see that all of these functions call functions outside of this contract, right? So you can look at this and see, like, this is your contract that you're looking at. So like this is the pool contract, right? And everything outside of that box, these are all of their own contracts, right? So you can immediately see, okay, literally everything calls outside of this contract. This contract is like, it's kind of like Uniswap Router 02, where it's like a pure logic contract. It's not the contract that's handling state. if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, please tell me. Oh, we can see flash loan in here too. Which we won't go into this time, but it is there, right? So, all right, there's a get user e mode. What does it actually do? Returns e mode user by category. So that is, where's the first time that shows up? Inherits iPool. Oh, inherit doc, okay. Well, remember that function's there for now. I don't know. Pool storage, is that where? Okay. So this gets into, again, contract patterns. Typically, I've seen this become more typical, is like you have a high-level contract, and like there's a few things you define kind of outside of that contract to be inherited. One is like the interface, right? So the interface is what are all of the events that are emitted from a contract, right? So it's kind of like you want to outline everything, all the events and functions. It's like you want to have like a clean place where everything is defined as like these are the function events that should exist on this contract. So that when you write the contract, it's like you're following this interface rather than like writing everything and then defining an interface and like hoping that you've captured everything. It's much cleaner to like have an interface with all of these things defined nicely and just inheriting and basically overwriting those functions. And people like to do the same thing for storage. And you'll see, even though this is inheriting it, that's not saying like, oh, this storage exists on a different contract and pool only references that contract. It's just saying pool is inheriting pool storage so that we don't have to redefine like all of the types here in pool because they've already been defined, right? So like that's why, sorry, I'm explaining like probably basic class knowledge, but that's why when I searched here for like e-user mode category, I couldn't find where this was defined, right? So I can see here, it was actually defined as storage, and this is a struct of user address to their e-mode category, right? So you really can only do one e-mode. That is wild. E-mode category. So categories are stored as a structure of uint to data types e-mode category, and that's stored in e-mode categories. So if we want to find all defined e-modes, we should find where are they saving things to e-mode categories. So this is calling a category. This is also calling a category. This is also calling, execute. Oh, all right, here we go. Configure e-mode category. Category 0 is for volatile. It's always disabled. All right, so we have, this is the function. So we can just make notes in Dune as we go. So we have each user has its own mapping of e-mode categories, and then define category with this call. So just save this here. And what was the, let's see. Pool storage, user emode category. No results. Okay, I messed something up in this one. We'll have to come back to that. So the user categories are defined here. And let's see. Let's see if we can find this function being called. It is here. So let's do something. So it looks like there's only two categories right now. They're both stablecoins. They have the same threshold, but one just has a 2% bonus versus a 1% bonus. I have no idea why they have two. It is also interesting to notice, like, their white paper says 98% and 1% as the bonus. And we can see on deploy, they did 97.5%, and then both a 1% and a 2% on the bonus. So looks like something changed between the white paper and actual deploy, but they haven't created emodes for ETH or Bitcoin or any of these other ones yet.
How did you know it was 1%, 2%? Like, how did you know to move the decimal like that?
Oh, so I'm looking at this and I was just guessing. I was like, all right, this is 101, this is 102. They probably have these two here as decimal points because, like, you don't have decimals on chain, right? So, like, I would expect if this is 101.50, then that means this is 1.5%.
Interesting. Okay.
It's just a guess.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Because I'm just like, what else? Like, what else could this be? I'm like, it's probably not 1.01%. Because I don't see why they would do that.
I see. Okay, cool.
Sorry, yeah, it's just a guess.
No.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and the LTV they set at 97%. So they went even safer than expected. But I guess, like, 1% probably doesn't make a big difference. Again, on the actual, like, Aave v2, it's like 75%, right? So that's still like a 20% improvement. Like, you can borrow 20% more than you could before, right? Which is huge for, like, stablecoin farming. Well, if there's only two emos, this gets a little less fun. Let's see isolation modes. Okay. This is what makes no sense to me yet. Isolation mode allows isolated or specific test ceiling could only be used to borrow stablecoins permitted. Let's see. Can we find isolation here? Isolate. Oh. Isolate. It's only here. Isolate. So let's look at this. Isolation mode, total debt updated. Oh, that's pool storage. Alright. So this is only emitted on the borrow and supply logic contracts, which are not here. Hold on, let's see. Supply logic, okay, there's emode logic. which I don't want to look into right now. There's supply logic, so I should be able to find isolation mode in here. It's not in supply logic. It is probably in logic. Okay, wait. I was looking for this event. Let's not get distracted. Okay, execute, reset. So this gets harder because now I'm in the logic contract. I can't check for this thing being called in top level, right? So like if I looked up this in here, yeah, it wouldn't give me anything. So like you wouldn't decode the logic. And this is something just being called inside. Execute. Borrow logic. Execute. Okay, let's see. So I can see that for that to be called, I'm looking for this function. Reset isolation mode total debt. So I would probably just check for this. Alright. We have something. Select all from... Alright, here. I'm gonna make a note here. Only 2 emotes set right now. And that's Stablecoins. What's interesting to note is, like, looking at here, when they say label Stablecoins, the addresses aren't included here. So we still have to find when is this label applied. But no results from query. Alright, I'm gonna guess that no one is in isolation mode. That is a heavy guess. But no, that's not a good guess. Alright, hold on. Let's be better about this. This is pool logic. Supply logic. It's not in here. The only thing in here is checking if the user's in isolation mode. But using supply method in pool.sol. Supply. Function, supply, execute supply. Aave, if you're watching, please make it more clear what enables and disables isolated assets. Okay, so it's not like there's a different function for it. When I supply, I don't see anything being defined as like this is or isn't an isolation mode asset. So that's not helpful. Isolation updated. It's like this total debt updated is only in pool logic. I mean, would it be in borrow? Alright, let's see. Isolation. Oh, there's an isolation mode logic. That's probably where this... Function. Update isolated debt if isolated. Okay, we're onto something. We're not onto something. Alright. Okay, my thinking is basically like, alright, we need to find when isolation was being updated, and then the top level call for it. But I can only see, and I don't know if this comes through on the stream, because this is probably pretty small, but there's like, E-mode is being called, pool logic is being called, but there's no isolation mode logic. Okay, wait, there's a call here on borrow. The only time it's called is in borrow. It's never called in supply. It's called in liquidation. We don't care about liquidations. So my guess is isolation modes, unlike E modes, is not something that's like user set. It's more set at the protocol level. So like if you do borrow using a certain asset, it just knows to automatically put you in that mode. I think that's wrong, but I can't find the answer to that. All right, we're gonna skip that. The last thing we want to look for here is when is E mode being defined, right? Okay, so users have a set E mode, which is only emitted upon execute set E mode, and that is called on set user E mode, which there's a configure, but we haven't checked set yet. So let us check set, and I hope this is not empty. It is empty. All right. Set user E mode is called it is an external function. All right, let's see if we can find something for this. Set user E mode. This is uint 8. Uint 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Select all from Polygon dot traces. Where? Hold on. Is it input? I think it's input. That one. Input, yeah. So traces is input, transactions is data. Where input for equals.
You got a space between the quote and the string.
I do. Thank you. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Do they have a pool configure? All right. Contracts overview. It's configuration. This is a pool logic tokenization. Okay, that doesn't help. Pool just provider. Pool logic. Default pool. Main entry. Pool configurator. I don't think this would help us. Pool configurator. Because I think this is just setting. Like pool configurator is setting. Yeah, so this is like setting high level stuff like the set E mode category we were looking at. It wouldn't set it for users. So that's not in pool configurator. I expect it to be in pool. Sorry, I hit back. A token. A token, I think, is just exactly the same. Stable variable debt, that is exactly. So, like, tokenization hasn't changed. It doesn't look like it. It should take a look, but I think A token is the same. They just, basically, their main changes are into pool. Swap borrow mode? No, that doesn't. That's. Maybe it's just when they set it as collateral, things are changed. Oh, I hate that you can't just control click in here. Oh, there is a user emote category here. Hold on. Okay. What is this asset? Tether. All right. So, all right, let me just look at one of these transaction hashes. Logs. Oh, I hate Polygon scan. Jesus. Nothing's decoded. All right, what's this address? That doesn't help me. That's just the Matic token. What is this one? This is just this. This doesn't look helpful either. Oh wait, maybe it is helpful. This is just a pool. All right. They don't seem to emit. Okay, do they have any emit events for? They do have a user emo set event. Did I look for this already? Hold on. I don't think I looked for. I looked at set user emode, but I don't think I looked at event mode set. That's probably actually a smarter way to look for this. So we're gonna stop looking through traces because that's probably gonna time out anyways. And instead, we're gonna look at this event. Oh, finally. All right. Oh. Let's look at this this one. You know what's interesting? User category ID. That's this one? User. Is it this one? Indexed user category ID. Okay, so this is your event set. This is set user emote being called though. Alright, so to be safe, what I'm going to look for here is what are the function signatures being called when this is being called, right? So this is event, left join, all from, alright, select left join, Polygon dot transactions tx on event dot event transaction hash equals transaction dot hash. And I want distinct substring transaction dot data 1 for this func sig event dot all. I basically want to check if there's any time that the user emode set is changed besides like besides when this function is called. Oh, that'd be a good utility query to write. Now I think about it, I might pause this and write that query later. But basically, like, you should be able to put in any protocol and get like what is the usual like pathing called by a user, right? So like if I put in Aave v3, I should be able to see like most users call supply and then set user emode and then like set use reserve as collateral, and then they'll do borrowing. Oh lord. All right. So we can see that user emode set, there's like 9 different ways to get there. So let's do event dot and let's do row number over partition by so we want to partition by substring, and then we want to order by block time sending, right? And we want to select all from this where equals 1. So we have a bunch of hashes we can look at now. This is redeem. All right. Okay, we can have one more way of making this easier, which is left joining by polygon.contracts. So let's actually attend this. Where namespace equals Aave v3. So I want to join on polygon.contracts PC on pc.namespace equals Aave v3 and pc.address equals transaction.2. All right, so I'm checking Because when I only filtered on like all contracts, I think there are a bunch of random contracts people already built on top of the pools for calls, but I only want ones that are Aave namespaced. So I can do this, and I can do pc dot namespace pc dot name. Syntax error, select all. Oh. So there's only one time it's called from pool in Aave. So yeah, my guess is yeah, you would set you would supply, you would set user emode. I guess if you set the emode, you probably don't have to set the reserve as collateral because it's just tokens that are in that emode, and then you would be able to borrow. And then you would probably have some complex set of like, you have to completely repay if you want to change your emode to something else. But yeah, so you wouldn't be able to... So you could deposit any asset you want, but when it comes to borrowing, you can only be in one emode at a time. And you're either in emode or isolation mode. You can't, like we saw this earlier, but like isolation mode. Like you can't use anything else as collateral if you're in isolation mode. But I remember here, we checked where isolation mode is defined, right? No one's reset. I don't know if isolation mode's on, so we couldn't answer that question. And we haven't been able to look at like how much have people borrowed based on their isolation mode yet. But maybe that can be here. That can be what we leave off on before I go write a bunch of utility queries. And you don't have to sit here watching me fumble through this. But so let's clean this up. Let's do this. All right. So for users who have set their emode, or no, I want the event. So I want user category ID where category ID equals 1. All right, and we know that from this that category ID. Why is this now empty? Ah, come on, dude. This wasn't empty a minute ago. Alright. Category ID 1 is... Oh, sorry, there aren't two categories. It's just one, and I think they overwrote it. So one was called March, one's called April. So they set it to 1% instead of 2% liquidation bonus. Alright, so we know that the category here is stablecoins. Sorry, so I can do this. I can do a left join on this category, right? Cat on cat dot, what do they call it? Cat dot ID equals event dot category ID, right? So I can do this, and I can get user and their category, cat dot category. This is JSON. We want the label. Stablecoins. And if ID is 0, then so either coalesce label or volatile, right? Because volatile was category 0, right? This is something we already know. Yes. E mode. Oh, duh. You can't define a column with single quotes. All right, so we have E mode versus volatile. I mean, it's volatile for stablecoins as like the E mode being set, and we want to see how much they've borrowed. So select all from pool dot call borrow v3. Oh man, Dune caching, please. Oh, it's just showing me the same thing. All right. All right, there we go. There's interest rate mode. Interest rate mode is just stable versus variable. So I want to see what assets are being borrowed under E mode, I think is what I want to see. Borrow, borrow. I swear this will make sense in a second. Join. Borrow dot on behalf of equals event dot user some. I first just want to make sure this checks out. All right, so group by. Let's just group by 2. User, I want asset. I'm not going to care about user for now, actually. So we want for each mode how much has been borrowed by asset. And I want to order by 3 descending. Last. I think I've sent in too many queries, so it hates me now. And I also want to join, I think, select all from ERC20.tokens. Polygon has that, right? Yeah, okay. So we're going to left join ERC20.tokens. TK on TK dot asset equals borrow dot asset, such that when we divide, we can divide by a coalesce of either tk.decimals, right? So for anyone who's not familiar with token decimals, tokens typically have anything between 1 and 18 decimals, so I need to divide it by those decimals. So divided by tk, or 1 e tk, 10, sorry, 10 to the tk.decimals. And if it's not there, then I'm just going to do 1e8 as amount. Here, I think it crashed, so I'm going to reload and rerun this. Oh, TK is contract address. Right. Okay, and we can do tk.symbol. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. We can see for each symbol amount grouped by E mode stacked percentage. We can see the borrowing of different assets by percentage of people borrowing using this E mode category of stablecoins versus the volatile category 0. Alright, so now this took us a while, but we're finally getting to something interesting, right? If like, why would someone be borrowing like USDC? Well, not why, but like, it's like, okay, 70% of USDC borrowing is happening from people using a stablecoin label, right? And only 32.7% is being borrowed by people using like a non-stablecoin label E mode, which is like probably they're using like ETH as collateral or whatnot. But it also seems to be that across all these assets they're using, I have a user error here. Hold on. This is assuming that a user only did their E mode category once. So there's some slight inaccuracies here now that I'm thinking about it. Because if you're in the stablecoin label, you shouldn't be able to borrow non-stablecoin assets, right? Wasn't that the whole point? It's like, if I'm in stablecoin E mode, I can only borrow stablecoin assets? So they do have a validation on borrow, right? So when you call borrow, you do have to validate that they're in the right emode category. Okay. I want to check. Times emode set. So the problem in the data here is some people might have set their emode category many times. This isn't right. Oh. This caching is killing me, dude. Why is it not partitioning? Oh, okay. My brain might be a little fried here. Partition. What? Community. I think we've broken Dune.
Yeah, I was like looking up, like I was thinking how did user become community, like at one of our earlier queries as well.
Oh, did that happen in one of our earlier ones?
Yeah, because we were grouping by some user and the user just became community. I'm like, did I miss like a labeling thing?
I didn't
Yeah,
notice that.
it's
Okay, I
interesting.
think there's something weird with these tables. But essentially we need... Okay, let me just do this. On borrows where event... So I want borrows that happened after their thing was set. And borrow that event block time is greater than. Because my worry is someone's setting their emote and then changing it. Oh, this is call block time. Things still don't really change. Because if you're stablecoins, how are you borrowing in a non-stablecoin? I think that some people are changing their categories, and that's part of the issue here. Because like they might have set stablecoin and then left stablecoin. Here, I'll make a note to myself to dive into. Some people may have set stablecoin and then left it. Otherwise, how are they borrowing non-stable coin assets? Right? Alright. I wish this query would work, because I think we could get something pretty cool, basically just seeing, like, how much have they set. But okay, what are remaining questions? How to check which assets are in a category, because I couldn't find, like when a category is created, they say the category, but they don't specify, like, a category to reserve mapping. Okay, so we have to find that still. How to check which assets are in a category. And then... Okay, I think if we can answer both of those, then this becomes interesting. But okay, I've also been going for a long time. My brain is kind of shot. Yeah, we'll come back to this later. Appreciate y'all for sticking around. I know it's been like 2 hours. But